whenever he gets his hands on guys, like they jolt back. And so
you think those Florida offensive tackles have forgot about him yet?
No, they haven't forgot.
I want to talk to you guys about Kentucky defensive lineman Josh Paschal, who's a fascinating story. He really leveled up his game in 2021 as far as dominating at the point of attack, really explosive, heavy hands. We have him rated as a fringe 3-2 grade as far as valuation purposes go. There's going to be some debate on whether or not he's an edge or he's an interior guy, so we kind of have him riding that margin where depending on the system he goes into, you could see this thing going either way. But Josh Paschal at 6'0", 2'5", 268 pounds, he slimmed down a little bit to go to the combine. He didn't run all that well. I mean, he ran a 4.8, but he had 38 inches on the vertical. Like, the explosiveness is there. You're just not going to carry it out 40 yards. And if you're asking him to do 40 yards anyway,
you're doing it wrong.
You did something wrong, right? So, Josh Paschal, let's talk about heavy hands at the point of attack, and then we can kind of get into his background a little bit from there. So, what pops on Josh Paschal for you guys?
Man, that's the first thing is the heavy hands. Like, this is a physical player. Like, this is a guy that doesn't mind running straight through the offensive lineman. Like, he'll go straight through your face. And then also he has the fluid hips. Like, when I notice when he beats that offensive guard, he can take that beeline straight to the quarterback, which you don't see for many interior offensive linemen. Like, he don't allow them to kind of run him around the arc when the quarterback steps up. So I was impressive with the combination of the size, the power, and how flexible he was as an interior defensive lineman.
I think he's an outstanding run defender. I mean, his ability to anchor against double teams, at 268 pounds is really, really impressive. I think he's an extremely physical player, really strong at the point of attack, and he's just a guy that he can really make a lot of plays down the line of scrimmage as well, because he does have that mobility, that athleticism. So to me, that's where his calling card is. And I think, Kyle, you mentioned he's a little bit of a tweener, right? Doesn't not super long, not the most flexible in terms of bending the edge. So where do you play him? I think could be a 4-3 base end, on the strong side, or in a 3-4 out front, he can be a 5 tech, or in a 4-3 you reduce him inside on passing situations. But he's a versatile player. I think his best football is ahead of him. And then the intangibles. I'm sure you'll touch on it a little bit, but it's a remarkable story, and he's a guy that I'll bet on in terms of where he's drafted and where I think he can produce at the next level.
Well, you mentioned his best football is ahead of him, and his best football that he's played thus far was in 2021, and a lot of times that's a flag, right? Like only 1 year of high level of production. How do you contextualize that? It's pretty easy to contextualize it for Josh Paschal. In 2019, he endured multiple surgeries for a malignant melanoma and underwent 12 months of cancer treatments. And when you consider that being a part of what day-to-day life was like for Josh Paschal, working through that. He was a team captain in 2020. After those 12 months passed, he was a team captain again this year. It's really hard not to envision somebody that goes through that kind of adversity is going to have a hard time working through double teams at the point of attack.
Right. Yeah, I think that personal side of things, right? We sometimes we talk about these players and their skill sets and what they do, but there's a people component, right? These are human beings, and like you said, the adversity that he's come through is huge, because that this dude is going to go to war with you, and he's going to show up and he's going to care about his teammates, and it's important to him, right? And he's fueled and driven, and like he's got a foundation to stand on where you can look back and say, hey, he got through that and put his best foot forward. He didn't miss a game, man. Like, that stuff's really important. And then what's also really important is that he's a good hand technician with really heavy hands, and you could see that whenever he gets his hands on guys, like they jolt back. And so
you think those Florida offensive tackles have forgot about him yet?
No, they haven't forgot. So I really appreciate those hand combating skills and how that's going to really set him up well to succeed, because we don't often say that about edge players and defensive linemen. We say, oh, they got to get better at that, right? Like, they got to be able to use their hands more effectively and activate their hands. Like, no, Paschal's got that, and he's a great dude that's got an awesome story, and what you're going to get from him in terms of that football character component. And so I think he's going to be really appealing for teams.
Well, a couple of you guys throughout the course of us getting on the board here and talking through players have talked about knockback.
Yeah.
Right? And you think about winning at first contact. it's really easy to disengage off of blocks when you're throwing guys a yard and a half into their own backfield, right? And he did that this year, and he did it week in and week out. And I think that was one of the most impressive things for Josh Paschal, who's looking, according to the TDN consensus, to be a strong day 2 option along the defensive line. We'll ultimately see who calls his name, but as we said, there's a couple different schematic fits that, depending on where you want him to play weight-wise, might be able to make sense.